All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts. The trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. And the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Party years on the cock carousel. Chase alphas, settle for a beta. Written by Conrad Riker. Available now, links in description. Men don't flinch at love, they smell the trap. How evolution, family courts and feminine hypergamy weaponize marriage against men, and why empathy, eco-fraud and wealth envy are just more leftist con games to crush male sovereignty. You know that sinking feeling when you realize the floor isn't just missing beneath your feet, it was never there to begin with. That's not depression, that's awakening. I used to believe the lies too. That love is blind, that marriage is sacred, that empathy is always good, that working hard earns you respect. Then I checked the data. Then I watched my best friend lose his house, his kids, and his will to live. All because he trusted a woman who said, "I love you," the same way a predator stalks wounded prey. The courts didn't protect him. The police laughed. His family disowned him. And the system, it rewarded her. This isn't an outlier, it's the design in the UK. Men initiate only 25% of divorces, but pay 73% of spousal support. In the US, 30% of fathers are raising children that aren't theirs, courtesy of nature's little-known loophole, called female hypergamy. You think evolution made women loyal? Open a biology textbook. You think family court is fair? Ask the 2.3 million American fathers locked out of their children's lives by court order while their exes cash child support checks for kids fathered by someone else. This isn't justice. This is organized betrayal. And the worst part, they trained you to feel guilty for noticing. You're toxic. You're angry. You need therapy. No, you need truth. And the truth is this: men aren't broken. The world is. It's genocentric, leftist, anti-male, and spiritually dead. But you're not dead. Not yet. And as long as your heart beats, you can fight back with logic, with history, with fire. I'll show you how the empathy they demand is a trap, how capitalist farming is a fraud, how redistribution is theft with a halo. This isn't a self-help guide. This is a counter-insurgency manual for your soul. The enemy isn't just out there. It's in your head, but today we start tearing it out word by word, fact by fact, truth by truth. The betrayal reflects why men panic at marriage talk and why they shouldn't. Let me paint you a picture. You're a man. You've worked 10 years. You've saved. You've built a life. Then one day you propose, or worse, you don't, but she brings it up, and within 2 years you're divorced. You've lost your house, your savings, your children, and 73% of spousal support payments now come from your bank account, not hers. That's not a hypothetical. That's UK Office for National Statistics data from 2023. And if you're still confused why men flinch at the word marriage, you're either blind or complicit. Let's be clear. A man who hesitates at marriage talk isn't broken. He's not emotionally stunted. He's not commitment phobic. He's seen the battlefield. He's read the casualty reports, and he's trying not to bleed out on the altar of female sentimentality. I once had a friend, let's call him Paul, who met a woman at a bookstore. She quoted Rilke. He quoted Marcus Aurelius. Sparks flew. 6 months in, she dropped the "when are we getting married?" bomb over vegan lasagna. He said, I don't know. Maybe in 5 years, 2 weeks later, radio silence, crickets, ghosted. 2 years later, he sees her on Instagram, white dress, diamond ring, husband, investment banker, 6-figure salary. Same age as Paul, same education. Only difference, he proposed after 8 months. Paul didn't. And let me tell you, Paul didn't lose a woman, he dodged a hypergamous bullet. That's not bitterness. That's Darwinism with better Wi-Fi. The CDC reports that 30% of men are unknowingly raising children that aren't theirs. 30%. That's not a bug in the system. That's a feature. It's evolutionary programming. Women are biologically incentivized to seek the best genetic match, not the most loyal one, and in the age of no-fault divorce and feminist legal bias, loyalty is a sucker's game. Go back to Sparta, go back to Rome. Marriage wasn't a love story, it was a contract, a civic duty, a strategic alliance between families. There were no "will you marry me" TikTok videos, no emotional manipulation, no sobbing ultimatums. A man didn't tremble at the thought of marriage because the rules were clear. Today, the rules are written in tears and gaslighting. A woman says, if you loved me, you'd commit, which translates to, if you don't sign this blank check, I'll replace you. And men, being rational, say, hold on. Let me check the fine print. But society calls that cowardice. Feminists call it emotional immaturity. Therapists pathologize it. Meanwhile, the American Enterprise Institute found men who married after 2000 lost an average of 1.4 million in lifetime earnings due to divorce, alimony, and child support, often for kids not even theirs. So tell me, what's more immature? Demanding clarity before signing your life away? Or shaming a man into blind trust while the courts arm your future ex with financial nukes? I call it the betrayal reflex. It's not fear. It's foresight. It's the psychological immune system kicking in. You don't wait to see the knife to flinch from a raised hand. Men aren't avoiding marriage. They're avoiding being used as ATM machines with a heartbeat. When a woman says, I want kids, what she often means is, I want your money, your time, and your name on a birth certificate, even if the donor was her ex, her boss, or the Uber driver. And don't pretend this is rare. Sperm fraud lawsuits are rising. Men are suing fertility clinics for being given the wrong samples. Men are suing women for deliberate misattribution of paternity. In one case, a man in Texas paid child support for 12 years. Then a DNA test revealed the kid wasn't his. The court still made him pay. The system doesn't protect men. It preys on them. So we're told men should just communicate, be vulnerable, open up. But vulnerability without reciprocity is suicide. You don't disarm in a war zone because someone says, I believe in peace. The modern marriage proposal isn't a romantic gesture. It's a legal ambush, and men know it. They feel it in their bones. This isn't about love. It's about risk. And when Hollywood and feminist media paint men who hesitate as broken, they're not healing men, they're disarming them. Romantic comedies end with the guy sprinting to the airport. Real life ends with the guy sprinting to a divorce lawyer. And yet we wonder why men are opting out, why male suicide rates have tripled since the 1990s, why men are vanishing from relationships, fatherhood, and society. Because the cost of participation is annihilation. The fix isn't therapy, it's justice. Reform family courts, mandate DNA testing at birth, make prenuptial agreements legally required, no exceptions. If a woman refuses a prenup, that's her choice. But don't let her then gut a man in divorce. If marriage is going to exist, it must be a two-way street, not a one-way extraction. Men aren't the problem. The system is. And until we admit that, every man who says not yet isn't broken. He's the last sane one in the room. I've watched the pattern unfold too many times to dismiss it as coincidence. A man suffers in silence, works himself to the bone, gives everything, then disappears without so much as a headline. But let a woman express the slightest grievance, and suddenly it's a national emergency, backed by media, money, and moral grandstanding. I used to think it was just bad luck, isolated cases. Then I started counting. The numbers don't lie. The system isn't broken, it's working exactly as designed. And the fuel it runs on, a twisted version of empathy weaponized. The empathy mirage, how leftism weaponizes caring to destroy men. A man I know, college-educated, quiet, kind, jumped off the Humber Bridge last winter. No note, no dramatic build-up, just gone. Meanwhile, a woman tweets men are trash to 200K followers and gets invited to TEDx. That's the world we live in. Men vanish quietly, and women scream into microphones while the system hands them awards. I've seen it too many times. The silent collapse of men ignored until they're dead, while every female whim is treated like a constitutional crisis. The left didn't invent this imbalance, but they've industrialized it. They've built an entire ideology around it, dressed in the velvet robes of empathy, while sharpening the knife behind their back. Let's talk about empathy, that overused, distorted term now wielded like a weapon to silence men. The left claims empathy is vital, but only when it centers women. Flip on any daytime talk show. A woman sobs over her unfaithful partner, and the crowd reacts with horror. A man shares he's been barred from seeing his children, and the host quips, maybe try being more in tune. The imbalance isn't random, it's built into the system. The empathy hierarchy exists. Women, kids, and select identity groups sit at the top. Beneath them, adult men, particularly white men. We don't just get left out of care and concern, we're mocked for asking for it. Think I'm overstating. A 2022 study in social psychological and personality science showed people felt greater sorrow over the loss of a pet dog than the death of a man. Say that aloud. A dog triggers more emotional response than a grown male human. That's not a bug, that's how the system works. And what does the left do with this weaponized empathy? They use it to justify endless female indulgence while demanding male self-erasure. The Me Too movement is the perfect case study. Yes, some men are predators. No one defends that. But Me Too didn't target predators, it targeted all men. It became a cultural purge where intent didn't matter, evidence didn't matter, and due process was treated like a patriarchal relic. Meanwhile, male suicide rates have hovered around 80% of all suicides for decades. In the UK, men are 3 times more likely to die by suicide than women. In the US, it's nearly 4 times, but where's the global outcry? Where's the viral hashtag? Where's the government task force? Nowhere. Because male pain is expected. Male suffering is background noise. We're supposed to absorb it silently like a carpet soaking up piss. Worse, boys are trained from kindergarten to equate empathy with female approval. Teachers praise girls for being kind and empathetic, while boys are told to be strong and resilient, but only until it's convenient. When a boy gets hurt on the playground, he's told to man up. When he excels, he's accused of toxic masculinity. The system wants men to be empathetic consumers, always giving, never receiving. It's emotional exploitation disguised as virtue. This isn't empathy, it's empathy inversion, a psychological operation where compassion is replaced with guilt, and guilt is used to control. You feel bad for being male? Good. That means it's working. Look at pop culture. This Is Us, a show that glorifies male self-destruction as noble. Jack Pearson dies, saving his family from a fire, and we're supposed to weep at his saintliness. Meanwhile, a man who builds a business, supports his family, and stays married is portrayed as a repressed dinosaur. The message is clear. Men are only valuable when they're dead or broken. That's not storytelling. That's cultural programming. Hollywood isn't reflecting society, it's reprogramming it. And the churches, don't get me started. Modern Christian feminism teaches that men must atone for the sins of patriarchy, a mythical empire that exists only in sociology textbooks. Real Christianity teaches mutual charity, justice, and love. What we have now is one-way absolution for women and perpetual penance for men. It's not faith, it's ideological laundering. Meanwhile, male life expectancy in the West has stagnated for over a decade, while funding for women's health programs has tripled. Breast cancer receives 15 times more research funding than prostate cancer, despite prostate cancer killing more men annually than breast cancer kills women. But try pointing that out, you'll be called a misogynist. You'll be cancelled, because facts don't matter when you're challenging the empathy cartel. The left doesn't care about equality, they care about power, and they've weaponized empathy to seize it. So what's the remedy? Men must reclaim empathy, but on our terms. Stop giving it freely to those who despise you. Redirect it toward other men. Build brotherhoods based on truth, not performative guilt. Stop apologizing for existing. When a woman says, "Men are trash," don't retreat. Laugh. Say, "Cool story. My trash just paid your alimony." Break the spell. The empathy mirage is an illusion, a desert trick designed to make you chase water that isn't there. Stop chasing, start building. The West wasn't built by men who wept on cue. It was built by men who acted, who built, who endured. That's the real virtue. That's the true spirit. And it's time we took it back. I stood in the middle of a dead field in Nebraska last winter. Frozen soil, broken fences, the wind howling through an abandoned barn, and realized this wasn't just a farm that died. It was a man, not metaphorically, literally. The farmer had shot himself 6 months earlier, left behind a note that read, "The bank owns it now." I don't exist. That moment hit me like a shovel to the ribs. When you strip a man of his land, you don't downsize his portfolio. You erase his soul, and that's exactly what they want. Because a rootless man is a controllable man, a man who can be guilted, taxed, medicated, and silenced. But a man with soil under his nails, that man bows to no king, no corporation, no ideology. He answers to the seasons, the seed, and his own honor. That's why they had to kill the family farm, not because it failed, but because it worked. The agricultural lie, how capitalist farming enslaves men and destroys the earth. The earth is not a commodity, it is a covenant. Wendell Berry, farmer, poet, and one of the last sane men in America. Let me tell you what really kills men in Nebraska. It's not droughts, it's not debt, it's not even cancer, it's shame. The shame of watching your grandfather's 320-acre farm worked, loved, prayed over for 4 generations, get swallowed by Cargill like a fat tick sucking the last blood from a dying dog. In 2023 alone, over 120 family farms in Nebraska went under bulldozed by corporate agribusinesses that don't care about soil, seasons, or suns. They care about supply chains, subsidies, and stock buybacks. And the men. The men just vanish, some into early graves, some into pickup trucks at dawn with a shotgun and a final text to their wife, "Don't let the kids see me." The suicide rate among farmers in the US is now twice the national average. This isn't farming, this is agrocide, the systematic murder of land, labor, and lineage. You think this is capitalism? No, real capitalism rewards ownership, risk, and responsibility. What we have now is corporatist fascism, a rigged game where the state hands out billions in subsidies to multinational corporations to grow corn that no one eats, just so they can turn it into high fructose corn syrup, ethanol and animal feed that makes cows sick. Meanwhile, small organic farms, real farms, where men touch soil, know their animals, rotate crops, use 1/10 the fossil fuel per acre, and produce more nutrient-dense food. But the USDA, they fund the poison, they subsidize the destruction. They call it efficiency. I call it ecological cuckoldry, men forced to watch as their labor, their land, and their legacy are handed over to faceless CEOs who've never planted a seed but control the entire food chain. It's like being forced to build your own gallows while your wife cheers on the hangman. And don't get me started on the buy local scam. You see it on Instagram, urban hipsters at farmers markets, snapping photos of heirloom tomatoes. They'll Instagram but never actually grow. Support local farmers. They chirp between sips of oat milk lattes shipped from Belgium. But when was the last time you saw a man leave the city and actually work the land? When was the last time you saw a man choose dirt under his nails over a promotion in HR? We've been feminized into consumers, not producers. We trade labor for comfort, dignity for convenience, and the soil, it's dying. Topsoil erosion in the US averages 5.7 tons per acre per year. At this rate, we have 60 harvests left before the land becomes Sahara. But hey, at least your almond milk is sustainable, right? Now, let's talk about distributism, a word you won't hear from Marxists or libertarians because it threatens both. It's the idea that property should be widely owned, not concentrated in the hands of a few. Chesterton called it 3 acres and a cow. Not a bad life. You work your land, feed your family, trade with neighbors, no debt, no bosses, no corporate overlords telling you how to farm. The Amish live this way. No chemical fertilizers. No tractors with satellite GPS. No bank loans. And guess what? Their suicide rate is near zero. Their marriages last. Their children stay. Their food doesn't come with a side of glyphosate. But try telling that to a feminist urban planner who thinks progress means more high rises and fewer hens. We've been sold a lie that farming is backward, that cities are advanced, that men should aspire to be knowledge workers in glass towers. Bullshit. The truth is, men are soil creatures. Our hands were made to dig, to plant, to build. When you sever a man from the land, you sever him from meaning. That's why rootless men rage. That's why divorced dads drink. That's why so many men are obese, depressed, and medicated, because they've been disconnected from the one thing that makes them men: stewardship. You don't steward a PowerPoint, you steward a field. You don't nurture a spreadsheet, you nurture a child, a cow, a crop. The food pyramid of exploitation is real. At the top, smug CEOs at Bayer Monsanto, flying private jets to Davos to talk about sustainability while their GMO seeds destroy biodiversity. In the middle, migrant workers paid pennies to pick lettuce under the sun while ICE raids their homes. At the bottom, obese Americans eating processed slop that's literally designed to addict you because sick consumers are profitable consumers. And where are the men? Trapped in the middle, either as exploited labor or exploited consumers. No ownership, no autonomy, no virtue. Look at Rome. When small farms were replaced by latifundia, giant slave-run estates, the free Roman men became idle, dependent, degenerate. They lost their virtus, they lost their patria, and then the empire fell. Sound familiar? Today, 70% of US farmland is controlled by just 2% of agribusinesses. That's not capitalism, that's feudalism with GPS tractors. And the serfs, that's you if you think buying organic at Whole Foods is resistance. It's not. Resistance is owning land. Resistance is growing food. Resistance is saying no to the system that wants you fat, docile, and disconnected. So here's the truth bomb. The agricultural lie isn't just about food. It's about men. It's about power. It's about who controls the soil, and therefore who controls the future. If you want to save your soul, start with a shovel, start a microfarm, trade eggs for meat, build real community. Break free from the consumer matrix. This isn't a hobby, this is revolution. And the best part, the earth remembers. It remembers how to heal. It remembers how to feed. It just needs men who remember how to work. I stood in that same bakery district 5 years before the collapse, shaking hands with a baker named Eduardo who showed me his ledgers. Modest profits, yes, but pride in every column. He told me, every loaf is a promise kept to my family. That bakery wasn't just a business, it was a man's sovereignty baked into flour and fire. And when the state crushed it, they didn't just erase an asset, they erased a father's ability to say, I built this. That moment seared into me. When you attack wealth, you aren't striking at greed. You're assassinating male dignity itself. That's when I realized the left doesn't hate rich people. They hate men who provide, and they'll burn every oven in the city to prove it. The wealth witch hunt, why socialists want to burn the rich, and why men should protect them. I once watched a man in Caracas beg for coins outside a shuttered bakery. His shoes split open, his hands trembling, not because he was lazy, but because Hugo Chavez had promised him equality and delivered starvation. The bakery, seized by the state in 2007 under anti-hoarding laws. The ovens cold, the ovens silenced, like the ambitions of every man in Venezuela who once believed that working hard could earn him dignity. They didn't just steal the bakery, they stole the idea that a man could build something. And once they stripped the producers of their property, they stripped men of their purpose. Today, women in Venezuela are paraded on state TV weeping about the people's struggle while the real victims, middle-class fathers who lost everything, rot in silence. This isn't socialism, it's enforced emasculation. The state doesn't redistribute wealth. It redistributes humiliation, and men are always on the losing end. You know what Switzerland has that Venezuela doesn't, besides functional toilets and a functioning currency? Respect for property. Switzerland has higher wealth inequality than most socialist dreamlands, Yet Swiss men have some of the highest life satisfaction rates on earth. Why? Because a man who owns something, his home, his tools, his business, owns his life. But in the Marxist fantasy, equality means dragging every man down to the same level of dependency. Equal misery is not justice. It's collective castration. The left doesn't want to lift men up. They want to chain everyone to the floor so no one can stand tall. And who benefits? Not men, not families, the bureaucrats. The political class, the women who trade loyalty for welfare checks while mocking the men who once provided for them. Let's talk numbers, since facts are the kryptonite of leftist fantasy. In the United States, the top 10% of earners pay 70% of federal income taxes. 70%. Meanwhile, half the country pays nothing. But who do they call greedy? Not the politicians siphoning off billions in pork barrel spending, not the bureaucrat inflating their pension. They point at the man who built a company from nothing, who risked everything, and they hiss, "Tax the rich." That's not economics, that's mob envy dressed up as moral righteousness. It's the same impulse that made peasants cheer as the guillotine fell in 1793. They didn't care about justice, they cared about watching rich men bleed. And today's media? They're the new sans-culottes, streaming the execution via CNN and Netflix. Speaking of Netflix, have you seen Parasite? A film that took home Oscars for glorifying a poor family who lie, cheat, and infiltrate a wealthy household, then burn it all down when they don't get what they want. And the crowd, they applaud. Where's the film about the guy who rises at 4 a.m. to deliver meals so his children can attend college? Where's the story about the engineer grinding 80-hour weeks to pay for his daughter's operation? Those films aren't made because effort without stealing goes unnoticed by the left. Steady labor is dull. Breaking rules for a reason? That's what sells. They've dressed up resentment as creativity and labeled it social insight. But it's not insight, it's indoctrination, and it's effective. Young men today think triumph means taking, and taking means fairness. I call this the wealth resentment reflex, a psychological disorder bred by leftist ideology that equates earning with exploitation. See a man with a nice car, must have stolen it, own a business, must be underpaying workers. Live in a big house, must be corrupt. This isn't analysis, it's projection. The leftist doesn't see wealth as the result of skill, risk, and delayed gratification. They see it as a crime scene. And this reflex isn't accidental, it's engineered. Because once you convince men that success is evil, you disarm them, you make them ashamed of ambition. And once a man is ashamed of providing, he stops providing. And when men stop providing, civilization stops. Here's a fact they won't tell you in school. In 2022, Harvard researchers found that men earning over $200,000 a year are 3 times more likely to be audited by the IRS than those earning under $5,000 3 times. And they want us to believe that's random. That's not random, that's targeted punishment. The state doesn't want to catch cheaters. It wants to terrorize producers. It wants to whisper in every entrepreneur's ear, "We're watching, we'll take it all." And the result? More men quit. More men hide income. More men stop hiring, stop investing, stop building. The IRS isn't enforcing law. It's enforcing dependency. And who wins? The state. Again, let's go deeper. The Bible says in Proverbs 14-23, "All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty." Clear. Unmistakable. God blesses labor, not theft, not handouts, work, but socialism, it flips this on its head. It calls the idle oppressed and the industrious exploiters. It turns divine wisdom into heresy. And the church? Too many pulpits are silent, afraid to call greed what it really is, the sin of the lazy man who wants what the hard-working man built. Socialism isn't compassion. It's spiritual laziness disguised as charity, and it kills souls. This is the redistribution racket. Tax the men who build, fund the bureaucrats who obstruct, disempower fathers, create welfare queens, destroy the family, collapse the birth rate, and then wonder why society is dying. Every socialist regime follows this script. Soviet Union, check. Mao's China, check. Modern Venezuela, South Africa, Zimbabwe, check, check, check. The formula is always the same. criminalize male success, reward female dependence, crush dissent, and the first thing they come for, property, because once the state owns the means of production, they own the men. I'll say it plainly. The criminalization of wealth is not about fairness. It's about destroying male achievement. It's about making sure no man ever stands taller than the collective. It's about ensuring that every father feels guilt for succeeding, while every bureaucrat feels pride for taxing him. This isn't progress. It's regression, back to the jungle, where the strong are torn apart by the weak, and no one builds anything that lasts. But I say this to you, brother. Build anyway. Mentor your sons. Start that business. Pay your taxes, but never apologize for earning. Wealth isn't stolen. It's earned, and it's yours. Protect it, or the next man begging on the street will be you. I used to believe the lie that marriage was sacred, that empathy made me noble, that the system would reward hard work. Then I watched my brother lose his house, his kids, and his will to live, all because a woman lied under oath and a family court treated him like a wallet with legs. I read the CDC data, 30% of men raising someone else's child. I saw the IRS audit stats, go after the high earners, always the men. I counted the suicides, 80% male, and crickets from the media, the veil tore. This isn't a patriarchy, it's a genocentric carcass feast with men as the buried meat. When a woman says, let's talk about kids, she isn't proposing love, she's testing your surrender. And when the school calls you aggressive for wanting your son to learn grammar instead of gender theory, they're not educating, they're indoctrinating. The trivium isn't dead, it's been hijacked. Grammar? They've redefined man to mean abuser. Logic? They say 2 + 2 can be 5 if it feels true. Rhetoric? They silence you with toxic labels the moment you speak, but we know better. Sparta didn't fall because it was too manly. It fell when it stopped training boys to fight. Rome didn't collapse from strength. It collapsed when bread in circuses made men soft. When land was stolen from farmers and given to bureaucrats. Sound familiar? You don't need permission to think. You don't need a therapist to tell you that loving your child, building wealth, or wanting truth is not pathology. It's virtue. You've just read the red pill, not of rage, but of clarity. You now see the matrix. Divorce courts as punishment mills, schools as feminist chapels, farms as chemical war zones, taxes as legalized theft. And you're not powerless. Start a garden. Teach your son logic. Demand a prenup. Walk away from false guilt. Build something that can't be taxed, seized, or cancelled. The left fears you not because you're angry, but because you're awake. And awake men don't beg, they build, they lead, they survive. The living spirits of the West isn't in universities or parliaments. It's in you right now, reading this, refusing the lie. That's where civilization restarts. And now the sponsored book introduction party years on the cock carousel. Chase alphas, settle for a beta. You're holding a loaded weapon if you're tired of being lied to, financially gutted, and treated like a human ATM. For decisions you didn't make, this book is your lifeline. I've watched friends become hollowed out shells after marriages to women who spent their youth chasing thrills with high status men, only to demand equality once their looks faded and their options narrowed. I've seen divorce courts strip fathers of their homes, their kids, and their dignity while ex-wives upgrade to newer models. This isn't theory, it's blood on the floor reality. Biology doesn't care about your feelings. Women's dual mating strategy, alpha genes, beta wallets, isn't a conspiracy, it's evolutionary calculus. The 35-year-old who swiped left on you at 25 while banging frat presidents will suddenly value loyalty once her eggs hit expiration dates. The system cheers this. Schools teach boys to apologize for existing. Laws punish men for daring to question paternity fraud. Media paints male ambition as toxic, while glorifying female promiscuity as liberation. You've been gaslit. This book isn't for simps, white knights, or guys who still think flowers and chore play will earn respect. It's for men ready to face hard truths. Marriage is a rigged game, equality is a shakedown. Your paycheck funds lifestyles created by other men. Chapters like divorce rape, court-enforced slavery, and the Beta Rebellion. Opting out expose the playbook women and the state use to drain your value. Data doesn't lie. 97% of alimony payers are men. IVF clinics boom as women panic buy sperm at 40. Tinder's top 20% hog, 80% of matches. If you're content being a consolation prize, close this book now. Go binge Netflix. But if you want strategies to dodge paternity traps, boost your sexual market value, and legally shield your assets, read on. You'll learn why toxic masculinity is feminist projection, how to spot a carousel rider before she saddles you with another man's kids, and why Hungary's pro-family policies crush Western degeneracy. The red pill isn't bitter, it's bulletproof. Your future self will thank you, or keep simping your funeral. Party years on the cock carousel. Chase alphas, settle for a beta. Written by Conrad Reicher. Buy now, links in description.